guys, welcome back to Heart Breathings. I am so excited to bring to you today a video I've been talking about for a while, as well as something a lot of you have requested and wanted to know more about, which is why I write and love Google Docs instead of another program like, say, Scrivener or Word. So let's get into it. So there are really three main reasons why I'm in love with Google Docs and I wouldn't write in anything else. And then there are a couple of little like cherry on top kind of items. So let me just go through those. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of actually like take you through my screen and show you an example of Google Docs and why I love it so much. If you haven't really played around in it very much, I think you'd really enjoy it. So I'm really just going to kind of give you a walkthrough. But first, let's talk about why I love Google Docs as much as I do. First of all, the absolute number one thing is that because Google Docs is a cloud-based, internet-based program, it saves automatically as I type. So I can literally type 3 letters and it's going to be saving those 3 letters. So if my computer gives out or the internet blinks off or some kind of storm hits and my computer gets hit by lightning, whatever, it is saved automatically to the cloud. So it's not just saved locally on my computer. I'm not just worrying about like, have I saved recently or am I going to lose several paragraphs? It is saving pretty much constantly, and this is the number one reason why I love Google Docs. Now, I'm not necessarily doing, I guess, a comparison between Google Docs and Scrivener, but let's just say, I know that Scrivener, if you haven't heard of it, is one of the more popular and it's very robust program that is wonderful for writing novels. There's a lot you can do in Scrivener that you cannot do in Google Docs, so I'm not at all saying like, Google Docs is better for everyone. If you love Scrivener and you love the like outlining and the ability to bring in images and, put your corkboard and different things like that into Scrivener, and you can move your chapters around and there's all kinds of features in Scrivener. A lot I didn't even get to use because there's just so many. It's a very robust program. But the deal breaker for me with Scrivener, as much as I loved it as a program for writers, is that I lost things. And if I didn't remember to save every single time or, I wouldn't know exactly which version, because every single time I would finish writing in Scrivener, I would have to save it. And because I was using multiple devices, I would have to zip up the program, put it up into the cloud, like into Google Docs or into Dropbox. And then I would have to go home, locate the most recent file, and then open it, unpack it. And it was just kind of a hassle. Now, it's been years since I used Scrivener, so maybe they've made the process easier. And if they have, and they have, comment down below and let me know that. But back in the day, you had to zip it up when you were done, find the file when you get home in the cloud, download it, unzip it, import it into the Scrivener on your desktop or whatever. And it was just really difficult because I had a Mac laptop and a PC desktop. So I was constantly like feeling like I'm missing little pieces. I could never find the right version. It was just kind of a hassle for me. So one of the things that I love about Google Docs is I never could lose anything unless Google's entire servers go down, which I think at that point we're at the apocalypse anyway. You pretty much are going to keep every single thing. And you can edit and save your Google Docs even when you don't have an internet connection. You just have to set it up inside Google Docs to allow you to save offline. So I write on a Chromebook, which you can't download something like Scrivener to a Chromebook. It's just purely web-based programs. And I love it because the second I open it up, it's on. I don't have to wait for it to like boot up or anything like that. It's super fast. The battery life lasts all day. So I never am worried. Like when we go out writing with friends on Wednesday, I go write with my NaNoWriMo crew every Wednesday. I don't have to worry about finding an outlet like so many of them do because my computer just will last for days and days without me having to plug it in or find an outlet. And of course the Chromebook goes so well with Google Docs. But if I don't have an internet connection, which I often don't when I'm at Barnes & Noble, because if you've ever tried to write at the Barnes & Noble cafe, if there's a lot of people there, sometimes you don't get a great internet connection. But anyway, I don't have to worry about that because I have it set up where I can still continue to write in Google Docs and it will just save it there on my hard drive of the Chromebook. And then as soon as I connect up online when I get home, it just saves all of that to the cloud. So it's pretty much a seamless process, even if you don't have internet access. So constantly saving, especially saving to the Google Cloud, because I'm on the internet probably 99% of the time, is a lifesaver. I don't have to worry about losing my work. And as writers, if you are somebody who has ever lost some of your work, you know how heartbreaking it can be. I have lost work when I had a word processing file, like just from Word, that got corrupted, and I lost like 10,000 words, and it was just devastating. But that kind of stuff just doesn't happen in Google Docs. And even if you get worried about it, you can always just click file and make a copy, and now you've got an extra copy just in case something were to happen to it. So just the fact that you're never going to lose anything is number one reason why I love Google Docs. The number two reason also goes back to that same thing that I was having, that frustration with Scrivener, where I had two different types of devices and would have to constantly be, shifting from one to the other. Google Docs is seamless when it comes to using your other devices. So if I want to, I'm sitting there while my son's at his dentist appointment, and I'm like, oh, I've got a really good idea and I want to write and work on that, then I can just open up my phone, open the Google Docs app, and I've got my document right there, and I can be writing in it right here. I can be speaking into it with the text to or speech to text part of the app, or I can just be typing things in or swiping them on my keyboard. If I'm on my laptop, I can do the same, and I can literally pull it up seconds later. I don't have to like zip anything or put it in the cloud or save it to the cloud or email it to myself, which I know a lot of people email their documents to themselves to save it. I can just literally type a few words here, put my phone down, open my laptop, and it's already there. So it's just this seamless process of it saves not only to the cloud, but it also seamlessly works from one device to the other. So I can be writing all day at Barnes & Noble Cafe, have gotten, a couple thousand words. I can get home, start dinner, and then I can just walk over to my PC, sit down, pull up that document, and it's exactly where I left off at the cafe, and I can start writing a few sentences here and there. Then after dinner, I can sit down on the couch and type up a few things or edit what I wrote earlier in the day on my phone. I've got a tablet also that's in my bedroom sometimes that I will like play around with Pinterest and stuff in the evenings. I could pull up my document and be reading from there. So the fact that it works seamlessly over all your devices is like number one, absolutely amazing part of using Google Docs. Okay, and the third reason, this is the other, these are my three big reasons why I love Google Docs. The third reason is the collaboration, and this is something that I don't think you can do on Scrivener, and you can't really do as well on Word. So this is what is boom, the number one, one of the number one reasons that I use Google Docs and love it so much, because as a writer who is self-published, I like to make the process as seamless as possible when it comes to my beta readers and my editors, because I don't want to be spending weeks sending files over, waiting for things to come back, and so on. So this is part of why I know a lot of you were like, how do you get your books edited and out and published so quickly? And this is part of why Google Docs is a savior when it comes to this. So I will show you when I show you the kind of screen share, and we're going to walk through. But one of the reasons is because it's so collaborative. So since it's all available online, when I finish my document, all I have to do is share it with my beta readers and with my husband, who is kind of my alpha reader. He's the first person who reads my documents, usually my novels, and I can share it with them, and I can say, okay, I'm ready for you guys to take a look at it. And they can go ahead and be commenting even if I'm editing chapters down the road. So we can all be collaborating on the same document at the same time. So let's say I've got a 5-chapter, I'm going to show you a short story that I have that has 4 chapters. So let's say I've finished editing chapter 1, and now I'm moving on to the final read through of chapter 2. I can go ahead and share that document with my beta readers and say, I'm ready for you guys to get started. And while they're reading through, I'm reading through and editing chapter 2. So that saves me so much time, because I don't have to get all the way to the end of the novel or all the way to the end of the short story before they can start on it. All right, so they can go ahead and be adding comments. And then as soon as I'm done with my edit, or my final read through, I can go back to the top and see where their comments have been, and I can start going ahead and making changes, which makes the collaborative process extremely quick. I don't have to wait for my beta readers to finish the entire novel before I can go ahead and be making changes on edits. And this saves me weeks, literally weeks worth of my time, and I love it. Then the other big thing with the collaboration is that I don't have to marry a bunch of documents. So if I have, say, 3 beta readers that I'm using on a regular basis, if they get 3 different, they get the same document, but they're getting 3 different documents. So when they start editing it, beta reader number 1's comments are going on to document number 1. Beta reader number 2 is going on a separate document, and 3 is going on a third document. So then when they're finished and they email me, they're emailing me 3 different documents. So I would have to go through beta reader number 1's comments. Anything that I'm going to change, I would need to change it in my main document. Same thing with 2 and 3. So then I've got to do 3 complete read-throughs of all of their changes, and everything's all in separate places, and hope that I've remembered to make all those changes and all those edits in my main base file. With Google Docs, I don't have to do this because all 3 beta readers are commenting on the same online file. This just blows my mind in terms of how much this has changed my process. It has saved me so much time, so much aggravation. It is so amazing to just have my base document, my final edited document, have all 3 beta readers and my husband all commenting on the same document. So that also saves them time, because if beta reader number 1 gets to a typo and they see that beta reader number 2 has gotten there before them, they don't have to mark it again. There's also a chance for them to have a dialogue. And so what I mean by that is sometimes beta reader number 1 will say, I don't know. I don't think that Harper would be acting like this. She's acting kind of like a spoiled child, and I just think she's crying too much, or, whatever. I don't think she would be doing like this. It doesn't seem true to her character. Well, beta reader number 2 can come through and see that comment and say whether they agree with it or not. So they can say, you know what, I get what you're saying here. Maybe she's crying a little bit too much, but I don't think she's acting like a spoiled child because this whole thing has just happened to her. So maybe what you need to do is just really beef up this emphasis on this event that happened, and then this reaction will seem more valid. I mean, I don't know, I'm just making things up. But then beta reader number 3 could come in and say, I totally agree with number 2, and that, this is how it should be, but I agree that she is not overreacting. Then I kind of have an idea of how they all feel about it, and it gives them a chance to sort of see what other people have said and whether they agree. And when you have a group of beta readers that are really good at working with each other and kind of helping each other, then it just enhances the entire process and enhances the novel and the characterization so much. But the main thing there is the time that it saves me. I don't have to wait until I'm finished with the entire novel. If I've got the first act is edited, I can go ahead and move the first act to a final document, and I can go ahead and have my beta readers working on that. And so they're working on Act 1 while I'm finishing up the final edits of Act 2. And by the time they get done with it, they can send me a text that says, hey, I'm done with Act 1. When is Act 2 going to be ready? And I can say, hey, I'm ready for you now. And then while they're doing Act 2, I'm finishing up the final pieces of Act 3. And then as soon as I'm finished with that part, I can go all the way back to Act 1 and be working on their comments and implementing their changes while they're reading Act 2. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense in terms of how fast that can make the process. I also am super lucky. I know that I have beta readers that at this point are willing to usually just kind of drop everything and read through stuff in a couple of days, which is amazing. But it just saves me so much time in the process because I don't have to wait for them to finish. They don't have to wait for me to finish. We can be sort of collaborating on the document at the same time, and it's been a lifesaver. So what we're going to do now that I've kind of given you my top 3 reasons why I love Google Docs is I'm going to actually take you to my screen and I'm going to show you what it looks like once you're inside the docs. This story, Locksley, is not a novel. This is just a short story that I wrote for a recent anthology that came out last week called Once Upon a Star, which is a fairy tale retelling anthology, and it has a sci-fi twist. So this is kind of like a virtual reality story that I wrote and really enjoyed, and I wanted to kind of show you just an example of what it looks like when you're inside Google Docs. So this is my story, Locksley. If I click up here, I can actually rename it. So I could name it, Locksley Once Upon a Star. Sorry, my keyboard is super clicky. And then I can also change to where it's saved inside my drive. So I could change it in and put it inside, a different folder. If I wanted to have just a folder of short stories, if I had different pen names, you can always organize Google Docs in that way. And then this is the main document. So as you can see over here on the left side, if you use titles, and so see here where you click through style, if you use titles or headings, then it will auto create this sort of outline on the side, which I really like that. This was a feature that wasn't available in Google Docs a few years ago, but it is now. So I like that because I can go to chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and so on without having to just scroll down like you do in Word. And I think Word now has outlines too, but it's nice that they add it into Google Docs. All right, so if I wanted to go to the bottom and I wanted to, so I just did a command return, that creates a page break here. And then I could create, chapter 5 and give it a name here. And then what I would do is I would actually go ahead and return there so that I can save my little presets up here. Then I can highlight chapter 5, go to normal text and give it a title, or I've been calling these headings. So as soon as I give that a heading, you see it pops up over here as another piece of this outline. So I usually will call my chapters headings. If I have a POV, like this is Parish's POV, then I will often highlight that and I will give it, I'll call it heading 2. And if you see how this works, then that will put her just a little bit tabbed over. So if I had a POV for each one of these, let me just do that here just to show you an example, because I write a lot of multi-POV and I know a lot of you write romance where you have 2 POVs and so on. So I could have a chapter title, and then if I put that as heading, or I could do title and subtitle if I wanted, and it would do the same thing. So I would call the chapter title heading 1 or title, and then I would call the POV either heading 2 or subtitle. And then that way, when you're doing your outline, it will show you which POV. So that way, when I'm kind of looking through and I want to pick out all of Parish's chapters or all of Harper's chapters or whatever, then I can easily see which chapters belong to her and which ones don't. So just a little, I guess, bonus feature there if you were interested in seeing kind of the capability of how it tabs out the outline. Another thing I wanted to show you is that here's part of that collaboration that I was talking about. Now, I do actually, this is already a document that's been published. This short story's already been published. So I have already resolved all of my beta readers' comments, and I actually don't want to just show their names and out them as my beta readers. So I won't show you that. But what I had was I just grabbed my husband and asked him to make a couple comments so that you guys could see an example of how the comments look when they're inside the document. So this is what I'm talking about, the collaboration. So when I was finished with, I'm ready for other people to look, all I have to do is go to share, and then I can put in people's email addresses, and I can even send them a little message. So I could say share. I won't click it because it'll show you the email addresses of my beta readers, but I would say share. I would put in their email addresses, and then I would say, hey guys, the first part of Act 1 is ready for you guys to go over. Text me when you're finished reading, and I'll let you know when Act 2 is ready to go. So I can leave them little messages. And then what they can do is when they come into Google Docs, all they have to do is highlight something and go to this little plus sign over here where they can add a comment, and it will put their name up here so I know who's making the comment, and they can say, should this be italics? And yes, it should, but I'm just saying they could leave a comment like that. And even me as the author can go in and leave a note to them. So I could, if I wasn't sure about this, I would say, how do you guys feel about this opening sentence? Does it grab you? Boring? Tell me. And I can leave that here for them so that when they open that document and they're, first opening it, they could come in and they could actually comment on my comment. So see how when I click on it, it says reply. So beta reader number 1 could come in and say, I like it. Beta reader 2 could come in and respond and say, this sucks, fix it. I want something more interesting. And now we've got a collaboration going. So I could see at that point where their comments are and their replies to each comment. So that's one of the really cool things. Then when it's my turn to come back through it, I can just click on it and I can say, okay, I'm going to fix this a little bit and then I'm going to resolve it. And when I resolve it, it goes up here. Now, if I clicked on this where it says comment history, then it would show you all of my beta readers' comments. So if you accidentally resolve something or you want to go back and see it later, it does save it in your comment history. But like I said, I'm not going to open that because I don't want to show their names. So if they said, should this be italics, you know, somebody could reply to that by clicking on it and reply and say, no, I don't think it should. Sarah, what do you think? You know, whatever. And then when I'm ready and I've fixed it in the document, I can click resolve. So I just had my husband kind of go in and give an example. So we can see it says George Bittman and it'll say, oh, should we come up with a more interesting name for the Iron Guard? At that point, another beta reader could come in and say, I really like the Iron Guard. I think it is interesting. Or somebody else could say, yeah, I agree. This is kind of a boring or like predictable name. Let's come up with something cooler. And then I would know that I could work on it. So that's the great part about the collaboration that you can do between your beta readers. And when I'm done with it, I either decided to keep it Iron Guard or not. I can resolve it. And if I want to bring it back up, I can always pull up the comment history and show it there. So as I go through the document, I can easily see where people have commented. And so then I get down to the bottom of the chapter and my husband has made another comment here. So you can comment down below if you know what this link start is from, where I use the word connect when he's connecting to the virtual world. There's another show that we absolutely love, an anime that we love, where they say link start instead of connect. So that's where his cute little comment came from there. So if you know it, comment down below and let me know, because it's one of my favorite animes of all time. So I could resolve that, and now that comment is gone. But it lets me know what I've worked through and what I haven't. So like, let's say I had to stop at the end of chapter 2 because, oh my gosh, I was just so tired. So when I close the document and I come back tomorrow, I know that I'm starting on chapter 3 and I can start there and see if there's any other, comments that have gone here. So you can see here, here's one that he made on February 1st when he was going through it, and I marked it as resolved, and then I reopened it so that you could see an example of, how the comments looked. But it's pretty cool the way that you can collaborate inside Google Docs. And I just absolutely love it. And of course, just like any typical like word processor, you can change, up here you've got bold, italics, underline, and there's short key codes like for each one of those. You can add links, you can change the color, you can change the font. I usually just stay in Arial. You can change the size of the font, pretty much anything that you can do in any other type of word type processor you can do inside Google Docs. You can also, like if I highlighted a certain section here, I can go to tools and word count, and I can see here like that I've just highlighted 285 out of 8658 words and characters and so on. I know that one of the more popular add-ons here is called Track My Words. I haven't actually used it myself, but it's probably one of the only like word count kind of add-ons, and I think it brings up something on the side so you can set targets and stuff like that, but I haven't personally used it. If you know of any other add-ons that work really well with Google Docs for writers, let me know. I haven't really looked into it very much because just the base program works really well for me, and so I just haven't really used it. You can also do, if you see here, you can do voice typing, which allows you to do speech to text. So you can kind of use it sort of like Dragon dictation or something like that. So if you want to use dictation, I have not found it to be as beefy or as robust as Dragon dictation. It does a pretty good job, but it's not amazing. But I don't tend to do much dictation, so I don't really use it too much anyway, but it is there just in case you are interested in knowing. And of course you've got, up here you've got the slider bar that you can use to create your, instead of tabbing or whatever, this is your like auto indent. I usually set mine at 0.19 here, and that looks nice, and it's, it stays. One of my only complaints, like something you kind of have to learn, is that if you, like say you're here and you're in a subtitle or a subheading, if I click return on that, it sends this all the way back to the beginning, and I have to restart where I want my auto tab. So typically the way that I will get around that is when I'm first creating the chapter, see how it will keep it when I first do the page break, it'll keep it here. So I like to tab down a couple and then just go up arrow to get here, so I can go chapter 5 parish, and then all I have to do is click down here and it's kept it for me. Just like a tiny little thing. I don't even know if that made sense to you guys, but anyway, it keeps it from me having to reset that auto tab every single time I start a new chapter. Just you kind of learn the hacks as you go, what makes things faster. But for the most part, I have to tell you, I super love Google Docs. I think that it's an amazing way to write your documents as a writer, because you can see up here, I just type a little bit of things and it's already saving it, and every change you make is automatically saved in Drive. So it's saving it as I go, and I just think that is absolutely amazing, and I don't have to worry about anything getting lost or misplaced because it's always here. Inside, if I click on this Docs Home over here, it's going to take you to all my documents, which is all my heart breathing stuff and just everything I have, like personal addresses and, you know, different things like that. But you can see I also have some of my novels like Shallow, and I have Pandemic, which is an old novel. I've been working on Fate's Surrender, which is right here. And there's a search function. So if I wanted to look for Fate's Surrender, I can search for it, and of course it's going to show me everything that is related to Fate's Surrender. So I've got the document here. I've got old titles or old chapters of Pandemic, which is what has become Fate's Surrender. So there's a search function that you can always find, and I think that you can even search for like characters' names, and it's going to pull things out of the text. So it's like Harper is my main character, so now it's pulling up any document that mentions Harper, which is all of these books of my Shadow Demon saga. So the search I think could actually be a little better than it is, but it's really not so bad, and it's nice to actually have that search. And you can see like when was the last time I opened this document, and you get kind of some of that data. But those are basically the number one things that I love about Google Docs, and the reason that I love to use it. Pretty simple things, but it makes life so much easier and so much less stressful to not have to worry about losing things, to be able to access it from anywhere on any device, and to be able to collaborate with other people, which saves me so much time. I hope that that gives you guys a really good idea of why Google Docs is such an amazing program for writers. And like I said, I know that it's nothing compared to like all of the beefy things that you can do with Scrivener. Scrivener is incredible, and I really loved using it, but I found that I wasn't using a lot of the things. Like when it comes to the corkboard with the different index cards, I like doing that stuff on paper. I'm just kind of, if you haven't guessed from my channel before, I'm kind of a paper person. So I like doing stuff on paper. So I want to have those physical index cards. So I wasn't really using that. Now, what I did use is some of the color coding that you can do with the POVs and stuff, and I missed that, and I'm hoping that maybe eventually Google Docs will get a little bit more robust, or people will do add-ons for Google Docs that will make it a little bit more Scrivener-like. But for now, the pros far outweigh the cons, and even though there's a lot of really cool stuff inside Scrivener, for me, just the peace of mind, the collaboration, and all of that goes into working in Google Docs is kind of a lifesaver for me, and it sort of cancels out the desire for me to use Scrivener. If you love Scrivener, you could do both, that you could use Scrivener for your main writing and then import that document into Google Docs for your beta readers, so that you can still use the collaborative things even if you're not using it to write normally. So that's an idea for you as well. You could kind of use both things if you're in love with Scrivener, which I don't blame you because it is an amazing program. And one of the other things that is kind of a downside, I guess, is that compared to like a program like Word, Google Docs does not seem to have a super beefy grammar checker. So sometimes it will tell me words are misspelled that I know are not misspelled. Sometimes it doesn't catch a lot of the more grammar things like double words and missing words in sentences, or like commas and stuff like that. Now, if you guys know of an add-on for Google Docs that is better grammar checker, please let me know. I know that Grammarly is something that you can use inside your browser, but I didn't particularly like Grammarly, so I'm not really up for using that one. But if there was an add-on for Google Docs, I might be interested in trying that. But what I do now, because I love Word in terms of their grammar checker, sometimes they're wrong because it's still a computer checking your grammar, but it's that kind of like a final read through thing for me. So usually my process is once my beta readers are done with the document, I've implemented all the changes and they've caught all the typos they can catch and everything else, I will take my Google Doc and I'll go to File, and then I will export it as a Word doc, and then I will upload that into just my Word program, my Microsoft Word program, and then I will run the grammar check on it. And a lot of times that will catch any further like typos that Google Docs didn't check and that my beta readers didn't catch, and it will catch like missing commas or, you know, different things like that. And like I said, you have to be careful with Word's grammar checker, because sometimes it will recommend things that actually aren't correct, because it's just like their computer is picking up things, but it's not really the right way to do it. Or it'll be like an incomplete sentence and it's trying to, I don't know, it just doesn't get it 100% right. So you can't just like accept everything. You need to read through and make sure that it's really correct. But I find that to be another way to clean up my document at the very end before I send it to my editor. And then I let her, you know, fix it the final time. But she always comments about how clean my documents are. And I know that it's twofold. It's threefold, because I actually am kind of a grammar nut myself. So I write very clean when it comes to my writing anyway, but also the collaboration with my beta readers where they're kind of checking each other inside the same document is one really great thing. And then the second thing is using that Word final check to just go through spell check, grammar check, because it's a lot beefier than the Google Docs grammar check, which I don't even think there is a grammar check inside Google Docs. So that's like one of the downsides to it. But if you also have Microsoft Word anyway, then you can do like me and kind of double use the process there. And of course, everybody should be using an editor anyway, so you've got that final look. But it is helpful when you want to turn in a clean document to an editor, because the less errors you turn into them, the more percentage of errors they're going to catch. So other than that, I can't really think of many drawbacks to using Google Docs. I mean, if maybe you don't like the interface or something like that, or you just really love all the extra things that you get with Scrivener, then, you know, you won't get that with Google Docs. But other than that, I mean, to me, there's no better program, because you're always going to have everything saved. You're going to be 100% like safe when it comes to that. You've got the collaboration and you can access it and work on it from any device at any time. Like even if I left everything of mine home and I was visiting a friend, as long as I know my Google login, I can log in as a guest to her computer or her phone, log in, and I have access to my document. Whereas if I was trying to carry around a USB key or trying to, you know, save things onto into my email or something like that, it just wouldn't be as accessible, because maybe that person doesn't have Scrivener on their computer or whatever. But everybody has access to Google Docs, since it is just an online web-based program. So to me, it is absolute like number one best thing that you can use to write. And this is why I love it. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then I hope you'll give this a thumbs up down below, and also be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so that you'll get notified when new videos come up from me. We've got some cool stuff coming up, including the March Notebook Challenge. And I know that today is March 1st, but the March Notebook Challenge video will not be going up till Sunday. Also this weekend, my next round of the HB90 Bootcamp, which is all about how to set your goals as a writer or as a creative entrepreneur, even if you're not a writer, and really like clear all the overwhelm in your life and get down to like setting goals that matter, and really getting focused in on the things that are going to move you forward towards your dreams. So if you're interested in joining that course, there will be a link down below to sign up to get an email when it goes live, but it is going to be open for registration this weekend, and it will be running in the middle of March. So I hope that you'll join me for that class. All right, guys, I have so enjoyed talking about my love for Google Docs. Let me know down below if you have ever used Google Docs or what you prefer to use when you're writing. I would love to hear more about it. All right, I will see you next time. Bye.